1970s Ivory trade, how the entire species of elephants almost became extinct. In the 1970s, use of ivory was at its peak. Ivory was so popular because of its uses. It could be made into sculptures, hairbrushes, jewelry, billiard balls, art, and many more items. Ivory was constantly being traded between countries. This created conflict between poachers and the survival of the elephants, because as the demand for ivory grew, the population of elephants was decreasing from millions to thousands. On October 16, 1989, the compromise was approved called the Ivory Ban. Since ancient times, ivory has been something of value, but as centuries went by, it became more popular. Hunters began to kill elephants for the ivory in massive amounts. By the 1930s, ivory was being sold everywhere. The demand for ivory was increasing to greater and greater amounts. The world didn't start to realize the true impact it had until the early 1970s. Several studies held by animal rights groups all over the world continued to show elephant populations rapidly decreasing. Elephant species such as the Indian, African, and Asian elephants were going extinct. Meanwhile, people all over the world continued to buy ivory. The International Fund for Animal Welfare, or IFAW, held a survey consisting of 1,253 Chinese ivory buyers. They found that of these Chinese ivory buyers, 70% believed that xingya, meaning elephant's teeth in Mandarin, was actually just elephant's teeth. They believed that it just fell out of an elephant's mouth and grew back. According to the book Ivory, Horn, and Blood, sellers did encourage this thought. By this time, poachers were reigning everywhere. Many tried to keep themselves hidden. Others were very open to what they were doing and didn't try to hide it. Some poachers even had their own gangs. One poaching gang was led by a very evil man named Verapan. Verapan killed more than elephants. He also killed rangers and policemen. Other poachers, unlike him, were just desperate, but they didn't pay any attention to the real impact they were having. They were just in it for the money. In the 1970s, there was a massive weapon flow to Africa due to post-independence civil wars from the 1960s. This gave poachers a huge advantage because there was now more weapons to use for killing elephants. But whenever there is bad, there must be good. So groups around the world such as the African Wildlife Foundation, CITES, the International Fund for Animal Welfare, and the World Wildlife Fund came together to put a stop to ivory trading. A major role in this conflict was played by CITES. CITES stands for the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. CITES worked hard to create laws and regulations for wildlife conservation. CITES created the ban on commercial Asian elephant ivory in 1975. However, they still allowed trade of African elephant ivory with some exceptions. The CITES agreement includes 3 appendixes. Appendix 1 focuses on the world's most endangered species, and trade for these species is completely banned. Appendix 2 includes species in which aren't endangered but need moderation in their trade. Appendix 3 is for species that need moderation of trade in only one country. CITES was the whole reason there was ever a compromise to the ivory world. People knew something needed to change. Richard Leakey, animal rights activist, states, "I felt we've got to do something dramatic, that if you can bring world attention to the problem facing elephants, you can stop it." Richard Leakey also is the director of the Kenya Wildlife Service. He did end up doing dramatic things and sticking to his word. He even convinced the president of Kenya to publicly burn all of their accumulated ivory. And it was riots like this that led to the main event. So many people were fed up with overlooking this topic. And to fight back, some would even burn ivory. Ivory burning was a very popular way to show your appreciation and awareness toward elephants. In 1989, East Africans declared all African elephants to be listed on CITES Appendix 1 instead of Appendix 2. In 1989, East Africans declared all African elephants to be listed on CITES Appendix 1. Kenya, Tanzania, Somalia, Gambia, Hungary, the United States, and Austria all sponsored this idea. After this happened, animal conservation groups around the world started coming together as one to end the ivory trade once and for all. Bans regarding the importing of ivory were showing up in countries all over the world. After many riots and burnings of ivory, there was finally a compromise. On October 9, 1989, meeting number 7 of the CITES Parties Conference took place. There, delegates from 91 countries and authorities on the African elephants argued the case for African elephants to be stated on Appendix 1 of the CITES Agreement. Many delegates declared that it would not work. At the end of the first week of the meeting, almost nobody believed they would even get 2/3 of the majority to pass the proposal. Despite all of the rumors on how the proposal would never be passed, when it came to the final vote, there was no question. African elephant ivory trade needed to be banned. The final vote was 76-11 with 4 abstentions. After the meeting, a group run by the former Kenya Wildlife Conservation and Management Department chief named Perez Orlando held a meeting to develop the details and figure out how it was all going to work. So by October 17th, African elephants were all transferred from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1, and it was effective on January 18th, 1990. Sometimes illegally trading ivory can result in a fine or even time in prison. However, right after the official vote, several countries stated that they were going to submit reservations against having the ivory ban. But only a few countries such as Zambia, China, and the United Kingdom followed through with their reservations. These 3 countries wanted to permit Hong Kong to at least sell off all of its leftover ivory stocks. Of course, none of these countries were able to stop the uprising ivory ban that is still in place today. In only a short amount of time, ivory prices declined to even only $2 per kilogram. In a few months, ivory production fell by 2/3. Not very many people were brave enough to keep poaching and/or selling ivory now that it was officially illegal. And the number of ivory craftsmen dropped from about 2,200 to less than 300 within a little over 10 years. All over the world, people with their leftover stocks of ivory were befuddled with what they should do with it, because it was now illegal to sell any more ivory. Many didn't even realize how essential elephants are to environments. Therefore, they didn't understand why the ivory ban was so important. Elephants are considered a keystone species. They are a keystone species because they clear trails, dig watering holes, and even dig cave systems. Without elephants, the environment would never be the same. Also, studies show elephants prevent desertification. Desertification means the process by which fertile land becomes desert, typically as a result of drought, deforestation, or inappropriate agriculture, and elephants help prevent this. If elephants ever went extinct, it would cause lack of biodiversity as well. When there is less diversity between animals and plants, it causes changes in the food chain. This can cause other animals to become extinct, and problems for the communities that rely on these animals for food, clothes, or shelter. Though the ivory ban had a positive impact, this conflict is continuing on today. The compromise was enough to keep the elephants alive and keep laws in place. If the elephants were completely gone, there's a solid chance there could be changes we didn't anticipate. But since they are not gone, and hopefully they never will be, we do not know exactly what would happen if they went extinct. In the end, the ivory ban stopped the elephants on the road to extinction. This problem is still going on today, but it is not near as bad as it used to be. Elephants are still roaming the earth. Also, people are people, and some people like to break the rules. We can't change that. The ivory ban made it so the people who do break the rules have a price to pay. Rather than just letting them be free to kill elephants, at least there is now a punishment for the people who do wrong. Poaching was a serious crime, and always will be, but now because of the ivory ban, we can stop it.